Welcome, recently deceased, to Geek Salad's retro movie reviews. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike. And by the way, this month is Shriek Salad.
Oh, yes. No, we are Shriek Salad.
Let's not do that again.
No, that hurt. We're talking about our favorite Halloween movies. Now, one thing I think we've kind of this week was interesting because we started throwing around things that we wanted to talk about. And it was like, I wanted to talk about like art house horror. Mike wanted to talk about stuff like your slasher films.
Well, some slasher films.
Some slasher films. We both actually kind of landed upon the Puppet Master series.
Which is odd because it's just such a random out there series.
Schlock. It's just such schlock, but it's golden age of video store schlock.
Oh yes, very much so.
So maybe that will be one of the 4 or 5 that we review this month. Primarily, I think we're going to just handle a lot of family comedy Halloween favorites, and one that is, in fact, in my family's repertoire every year. 1988's Beetlejuice.
Just say it once.
I'm just going to say it the one time. Directed by Tim Burton and starring Michael Keaton, Gina Davis, and Alec Baldwin, and a host of other people.
And Winona Ryder.
Yes. And I think this is the first thing I really remember her in. I know she was in like the movie Lucas a couple of years before, but
Heather's was next, the 1989.
Next year, unless you go by the Italian film festival release date, in which case it is 1988. We had this discussion on our Movies of 88 show earlier this summer.
I actually just listened to that one again today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just finished our movie scores episode. It's hard for me to listen to those right after I've edited them. So, yes, and the shows that we're talking about, you can get at geeksalad.podbean.com if you're a first-time viewer to this, our third retro movie review, and the first of Halloween 2018.
Yes.
So, Mike, when was the first time you watched Beetlejuice?
Honestly, it was... I have a feeling it was probably on 56 or Channel 38 or somewhere around there. Because, for one, we didn't get cable until the mid-90s.
True.
We were latecomers to that. And 2, my mom was like super religious growing up, so this probably wasn't a one that we were allowed to watch. Unless I could sneak it on one of those UHF channels. So
you would watch these things like I would watch Scrambled Playboy channel, pretty much.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But
is that waiting room? Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I just watched it again yesterday. And we'll get into our thoughts on that.
Yes. We watch this every year. I actually, again, 6 years older than you, watched it in the movie theater twice. Saw this one twice in the theaters. Absolutely loved it. I saw it in the theaters and loved Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This to me is the first really true Tim Burton movie.
Oh yeah. I mean, Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a Tim Burton movie, but it was still mostly a Pee-wee movie.
Right.
This is the one where Tim Burton was like, now I get to showcase all that I can do. I take everything that's in my mind and just throw it on the screen.
Right. But what got me into the movie theater was from the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Yeah. And this is before I was like a super film nerd and just like, oh, I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Let me go see this movie instead. And I really loved it. It was that weird time also with Michael Keaton had kind of just fallen off the radar. He had done Mr. Mom, and then he had fallen off the radar for a little bit. And he had done movies like The Dream Team, Clean and Sober, and a couple of other movies. And this was kind of his first return back to form, and essentially his work with Tim Burton would eventually get him the Batman role.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was the same year actually. Wait, no, sorry, 1989. Yeah.
Well,
So
89
yeah,
is when Batman came out, but they started filming in 88, and that's when it went from Beetlejuice came out in the spring of 88. By July of 88, they had cast him, and nerds everywhere flushed their Starlog magazines down the toilet in disgust. God, it was such a simpler time back then.
yeah, it's so funny. Apparently, when when Michael Keaton came in for to read for this role, he pretty much just kind of did his own thing and just went as bonkers as he wanted to, and because I guess Tim Burton had envisioned it one way, as maybe a little bit darker, and then Michael Keaton just decided to go this full kind of gross out, kind of the most obnoxious person in the room, and
right. He's a showman who also happens to sell used cars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of great scumbaggery.
Oh, big time.
In the character of Beetlejuice, which I think only Michael Keaton could have done that.
Oh yeah, yeah. This role just screams Michael Keaton, but in the best way possible.
Yeah, yeah. It's so much fun. But I mean, when you think about it too, the biggest star in the movie at that time was Gina Davis.
Yeah. Alec Baldwin was just starting to get off.
Right. I mean, she wasn't a huge star by any means, but this was the year she would have an Oscar by the very next year. So she's just one of those up and comers. She had done The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. I think at the time she was still Mrs. Jeff Goldblum as well.
I didn't realize they were actually married.
Yeah. There's an incredibly young, skinny, light-haired Alec Baldwin in this movie too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really the only time where he looks like his brothers used to look.
Well put.
Yeah, because he's aged the best out of all of them.
He has, but it's so weird watching him back there because he's just like, dude, this is actually a young, good-looking guy.
Yeah, and he's so soft-spoken in that movie too. He's it's interesting because from that point, his bigger movies that he had done at that point, he had done Married with the Mob, which actually came out, I think, a little later that summer, where he plays a mobster and he's just really slick. He was the jerk best friend, and she's having a baby.
Oh, so more of a supporting role.
Yeah, exactly. And with this one, it was interesting seeing him play completely against type. I mean, you could look at that role now and still say not an Alec Baldwin role.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, again, like you said, very, very soft-spoken. And, if you look at his more current roles, he's a lot more bombastic and larger than life.
Well, you look at it this way. 4 years later, he has his signature role in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the polar opposite of oh my God, what is his name?
Oh, in this movie?
Yeah. It's one of the Maitlands.
Is it Adam?
Yes, Adam Maitland. Which had confused me too because there is an Adam Baldwin as well.
Yeah. Who is not actually a Baldwin, right?
Not a Baldwin. No. Yeah, I know. Go figure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the closest actors, the closest to their personalities and those types of roles that they were doing at the time was Winona Ryder and Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey Jones had a cottage industry of playing just this buffoon.
I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of weird watching movies from this this and Ferris Bueller where you see Jeffrey Jones and then knowing what you know now, it's kind of weird watching him now.
Well, yeah. He was acquitted on all charges, by the way. Yeah, I know. It's still hard to shake that image. I mean, Catherine O'Hara is also a Catherine O'Hara type.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't hate her in this role. I just thought, she's Catherine O'Hara.
Right. I mean, that's at that point, like that 85 to 88 view of what your Soho artist was like in a movie. I mean, it's just that, artists are weird type of stereotype that was very prevalent in that. And then Glenn Shaddix, I got to say, out of the other cast members, is an absolute find.
Who?
Otho.
Otho is a weird character for me in the movie because I find him annoying and insufferable. But the fact is, that's how he was written. So,
right.
I don't like him, but that's the point to Otho. So it's weird.
Glenn Shaddix was an interesting actor. Well, first of all, I mean, he played pretty much the same type of character in almost everything he was in. I mean, going forward, I mean, he was in Demolition Man, where he was kind of like, the Smithersy assistant, and he was the mayor in Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh.
And he's had quite the career with Tim Burton. And he's passed, quite the career with Tim Burton. But this is the type of character I just recognize from theater.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Very, very large presence. Not in terms of just like physical size, but that does help. But the just that presence, that larger than life, very kind of pushy personality.
Very bombastic.
Yes, very bombastic. I liked it too because there was a whole lot of him kind of bullshitting his way through stuff like having the book.
Oh yeah.
And seance, and then just realizing he can't do anything to stop it.
I love that, like, when they're coming down from the ag, they're like, "Otho, can you do anything?" I may be able to do something. Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, you just spent like 2 seconds looking at this book and suddenly you're the expert."
Right. The weirdest piece of casting in this movie, though, was Dick Cavett. Because Dick Cavett can't do anything but play Dick Cavett.
I would counter with Robert Goulet, but
yes. However, he gets to reel off one really great line.
Which one is that?
When he's on the phone.
Oh yes, and he just hung up. Yeah.
And then, Dick Cavett gets another great line too, but it's delivered in that Dick Cavett way. Delia, you're a flake. You've always been a flake.
Mm.
But it was weird because Dick Cavett had been on screen for like 5 minutes in this movie. I didn't recognize it was him until after the whole Deo dance scene possession was over. And then he stands up, he straightens his jacket, starts talking. I'm like, oh my God, that's Dick Cavett.
You didn't recognize him dancing.
I did not recognize him. It was just one of those things. It's like, oh, okay, Dick Cavett is in this movie. Which is weird because that's like the kind of cameo that someone 10 years older than me should know.
Yeah, he's been around. He was around for a while.
Cavett had a talk show in the 70s, okay? Where I was watching talk shows. I just knew him because of this type of personality. I think it was for the A1 steak sauce commercials.
Okay.
Where essentially my memory just remembers those commercials being him whipping ketchup out of people's hands and going, "Why would you put that ketchup on your hamburger, you savage? Is it chopped ham? No, it's chopped steak. Here's the steak sauce. Here, take this. The international symbol of Andy's steak is underdone and flavorless."
Come on, none of your steaks are underdone and flavorless. Oh, they're all succulent.
But that is a sign. If you ever eat with me at a restaurant and I order a steak and I grab the A1, I'm not happy with said steak.
Understood.
Okay. So, I mean, we've kind of talked about the cast already. What really works? Why does this movie hold up after 30 years?
I think it. If you did not have Michael Keaton doing Beetlejuice the way he does it,
Right.
I mean, I actually while watching it yesterday, I actually went down and here my notes, and I actually put the timestamp as to when the character comes on the screen and when he vanishes, and he's in the movie for less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But the fact is, his personality is just so unique, and that he's so unlikable at the same time, as soon as he's there, you can't help but notice him and watch him and see everything he does. And without that, this movie does not work as well as it does.
Right. I think too, it's just enough of him. This is the type of restraint I don't think you get in a modern movie when you have this type of character.
Yeah, he toes a very, very fine line.
I agree. But what works about that though is that because he's all over the place, because it's hard to like him, but you want to see more of him. Especially when he's like, I mean, he's sexually assaulting Gina Davis, for God's sakes.
Oh, dude, as soon as he puts a big old kiss on her right in front of her husband.
Right.
It's like, dude, no, hashtag me too. Come on.
Babs. God, that voice. And I think too, and just the thought occurred to me that any other actor could have essentially played him kind of like that defunct Universal music show they had at Universal Orlando. It could have been that bad.
I mean, he is the villain of the movie, but at the same time, he is such a unique character.
You don't see characters like that have that kind of ability to move between the worlds of the living and the worlds of the dead the way that he does. And I do like the Candyman aspect of it, even though this came first. Say his name 3 times to summon him.
Well, I mean, that's a common, urban legend trope anyway.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's the Bloody Mary trope.
Yeah.
But there's some really great pieces in there too, especially because his adversary is Juno.
Oh yeah.
Really, the Maitlands. It's Juno that is his adversary.
I love the fact that it's you never really told like how he's so powerful. You just kind of get the feeling that he's just been dead for so long. He knows all the tricks and all the secrets. He can just do them. Right,
exactly. I do love that bit though, where he gets lured into the whorehouse. The whorehouse was my idea.
Oh, actually, kind of speaking of Juno, while watching it, I had never realized before how smart this script is. Is because when you go through the office and you see the secretary, she shows that I wouldn't have had my little accident, and then later on in the movie, Otho says something. You know what they say about people that commit suicide, they end up in the afterlife as civil servants. And then you think back, it's like everyone in that office somehow had committed suicide.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. I had never noticed that before.
Oh my God, that is one of the things too, and part of why this movie works so well as a Halloween movie is that waiting room scene. The afterlife waiting room, which is just brilliant in and of itself. There are so many great little bits in there, like the guy who's just being dragged because he got run over by a bus.
Mm-hmm.
The football players are my favorite, though.
Oh yeah.
Coach, what time is curfew? Stop calling me coach. He survived. Coach, I don't think we survived that crash.
What gave you the clue?
Oh,
I love how Juno just has no patience for anybody because she's been doing this for centuries.
Right, exactly. And Sylvia Sidney is so good.
I love it when she's taking a puff and then just the smoke just starts
comes out of her throat. Exactly.
Just these little things that make it though. All those things, that entire afterlife scene, that is 100% Tim Burton at his peak.
Absolutely. Now, here is one thing that makes this movie last, and it's weird to say, but kind of the crappiness of some of the makeup and special effects.
Oh yeah.
Hold up.
Oh yeah. I mean,
That's the thing. A Tim Burton movie can look like that and hold up 30 years later, even though it looked like Halloween costumes.
Yeah, I mean the whole way the house was kind of remodeled.
Yeah,
it's like it's just slightly askew from reality.
Right.
And they've got like the wall and the window outside that they do some awesome camera shots through.
Yeah.
The pullbacks like that. It's just so weird, but it clicks in just the right way.
Yeah, and it really just shows kind of what a visual master Tim Burton is. I mean, look at the opening scene. Look at the credit sequence.
Oh yeah, when it's going through the town and then it pulls back to reveal, oh, this is the model.
Right.
I'm like, whoa!
I first saw that. Now, again, I saw this within its first 2 weeks of release. You're watching that, and it's kind of like, that kind of looks fake, but let's keep going. And the second the bug crawls on top of the house, it's like, oh, I was fooled.
I mean, this is where he's really perfecting all of his all the camera tricks that he uses in like Edward Scissorhands.
Right, exactly. It looks beautiful. Which again, because there's a lot of blue screen, there's a lot of model work, there's a lot of stop motion, which looks like, I mean, that's the adage about CG. CG is a lot like stop motion animation. You know when you see it. And the stop motion animation works by virtue of being a Tim Burton movie. I mean, there's not a lot you can forgive Tim Burton for. You know, as this career keeps chugging along, that's one of those things you can still forgive him for.
Oh yeah, I mean
when things look like models.
Yeah, I mean the sandworms, you can tell that they're made of clay, but because of Burton's style and atmospheric,
it doesn't look out of place.
No, it fits in that world that he's created around you.
Right. What? All right. So, what do you think hasn't held up, or what doesn't really work?
Winona
Ryder's a bit of a pill in this movie.
I don't know. I think the kind of gothic kind of act that she's pulling, it fits with the movie's aesthetic. Actually, one thing that kind of like threw me off a little bit is at the very end, where she gets out of the school and she's all home and she's happy and she's not gothic anymore. I'm like, okay, I get it. That now she's found a family that works for her.
Right.
But it's still kind of weird to see her not goth when you've had like an hour and 20 minutes of her being gothic.
Right, exactly. And what's weird about that ending, I mean, I think that the Shake Sonora dance sequence works really, really well. It's one of those classic, like, you can remove it from the movie and still enjoy watching it.
I mean, same thing with the Deo scene. That's just pure genius.
Absolutely. The Harry Belafonte, the use of Harry Belafonte is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
The ending, though, I think there's the issues with the ending because there's questions about the ending that I don't think I'll ever get answered.
One thing I did love about the ending, though, is that it's a wonderful callback because when they first start reading the handbook for the recently deceased, Alec Baldwin says like this reads like a stereo manual.
Yeah, and then at the end, like stereo instructions, and
at the end he's reading the handbook for like the living and the dead harmonious lifestyles for peaceful coexistence, and from the author of the handbook for the recently deceased, and Jeffrey Jones says this reads like a stereo manual.
Right.
Awesome callback.
That is a great callback. It's just, how does that work? I mean, are they visible? Are the Maitlands visible now? Or they can't leave the house because they are still dead, but they are essentially now Lydia's family?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
calling the shots on that.
It's. I mean, all throughout, like Juno has been telling you, oh, the living cannot coexist with the dead. It's not possible. And then at the end, we have a book saying it is possible.
Right.
It's kind of it's a happy ending, and I like the ending. It's a little bit of a shift from the rest of the movie.
I agree. I completely agree with that. But I mean that's they're quibbles, and this is the kind of movie where there's no such thing as a perfect movie. The quibbles are minor in terms of this. I think. All right, here's another thing that we didn't bring up about what works. This may be in my top 5 Danny Elfman scores ever.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I was actually thinking about that at work today, and just like I was just playing it through my head, and I was like, this score sounds like it sounds like a circus theme. That's just it's a circus that you don't want to visit after dark.
Right. There's a lot of great fiddle use in the score. There's a lot of there are a lot of callbacks to there's a piece of classical music. I'm just trying to remember the name of it. I may have to look it up on my Halloween playlist. But there's a lot of callbacks to a piece of music about, I don't know if it's about the marionettes or the hangman or something like that. But there's a lot of little callbacks with the fiddle. Just do that bum bum type of thing. I'm looking for it. So you talk more about Mr. Elfman's score.
Well, I mean, this is I think this is the first score where Elfman and Burton really sync on all cylinders.
Yeah.
This is the first time that like Burton, like Elfman must have seen this movie and was like, oh, I get it. And this is the music that you need. And Burton's like, yes. Not since Williams and Lucas have you gotten such a score that meshes so perfectly with the film that you're watching.
True. And again, there's going back to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, there was a lot of good stuff in there. But this meshes better with the visual aesthetic that Tim Burton was able to get.
Have you found the music?
I'm still looking for it.
All right. I mean, it's
Mark the Marionette.
Who was the composer again?
That is. I just have it as Arthur Fiedler. I don't really have the thing there.
That's fine.
But yeah, no, it's a. There's a lot of those little callbacks though, too, which is really kind of cool. I mean, overall, I will continue watching this movie every year.
Oh, absolutely.
And in fact, I think my daughter may be old enough this year to watch it. I mean, language-wise, there's a little bit of language in it. The nice fucking model is back when you be able to use one F word in a PG-13 movie.
Was this PG-13?
This was PG-13. Was it PG-13? Now you got me. All right, I'll look it up.
Because I mean, that is a great line, especially after he kicks the tree down, and then later Alec Baldwin has to stand. He has to fix the tree. It's I get these brilliant little details that just make it so special.
It's PG. So back when you used to have one F word per PG movie. Wow. I know, huh?
I mean, I mean, that one part is the only thing that I would think would make it PG, because other than that, it's actually it is entirely 100% a family movie, actually.
It is. I mean, there's some of the deaths, the more gorier, like afterlife deaths.
Oh yeah.
You know, the stuff with the slit wrists, the guy who was run over by the car. I mean, some of those football players have bones sticking out of them. So I can understand, visually it might be upsetting for a younger child.
Yeah, I mean, the only really kind of quasi scary part for me was the shrimp hands. because those just come out and then grab it and then
the shrimp hands, and when the Maitlands start to age rapidly.
yeah. I mean, the effects don't hold. I mean, they have the regular face and then they kind of like superimpose the older face on it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it fits for the time, and yeah, it is genuinely a little bit, definitely on the more creepy side.
Yeah, that might not be a let's go watch this movie. Now go to bed. Think about what you just saw.
Oh, I mean, also like when they're first being led to Juno's office,
Yeah,
and they pass the room of lost souls,
yes,
which foreshadows the ending, but that's not a pleasant room to see.
No, not at all. But it's not as bad. I mean, if you've seen the movie, the Disney Hercules,
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, just in more of a live action.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely worse movies at the time that I could think of. They're still family movies, but not quite.
Right.
Like Ghostbusters, I think is worse than this one.
80s family movies where it's like, God damn, there's a lot of swearing in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's what beyond the F-bomb that they just dropped. I can't really think of too much language issues.
Might have been one or two shits in the movie, but that might be about it.
I think Winona Ryder might have gotten one of those off, actually.
I don't think she did, actually. I think it was all Keaton.
I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it looking for that specifically.
Trying to explain a whorehouse will be the next fun part of that. So, anyway, that was Beetlejuice. I don't think I'm leaving anything off. Am I, Mike? You're the one with the notes.
Yeah, I mean, I do love the scene, the moment like where when Lydia's saying, I want to be dead with you.
Yeah.
And Gina Davis just says like being dead doesn't make things any easier.
Right.
I really like that line.
I do too. I enjoy. I mean, the lessons of it, especially for teenagers.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not dealing with that teenage angst.
Yeah, that's another thing I relearned while rewatching it is that before I watched it primarily for the Beetlejuice scenes, obviously, or the Beetlejuice or Beetlejuice. It's weird. It's in the movie. It's Betelgeuse.
Right. Well, that's how you pronounce it for the movie. Yeah.
But I mean, at its core, this is a movie about learning to accept other people who learn accepting other people who are very different than you, but still the same.
Right.
And I never picked up on that before.
Yeah. So what else are we leaving off, Mike?
The dog at the beginning is a dick.
What's that?
The dog at the beginning is a dick.
Oh, yes.
He purposefully kills those people, and that's just no.
Dog needs to be put down before he murders again.
Oh yeah. 8 minutes before 8 minutes and they die. I mean,
yep. After they get their paint for the model.
Yeah, that's just heartless.
Yeah.
Also, the paint shop in the beginning is the Maitland's shop, so their family must be from this town.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's never really clear what Jeffrey Rush's character does for a living, is it?
Jones's character?
Yeah.
I think he was on Wall Street, or he was like a realtor, and he had a nervous breakdown. That's why they moved to Connecticut.
Yeah, Winter River, Connecticut.
Winter River, Connecticut. I love that, though, where he's looking at the birds. He's got his book, and he sees that bird, like, eating another bird.
Yeah, it's like eating roadkill. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I can think of. I mean, this is just, if you haven't seen it for a while like I had, rewatch it. It is a lot better than I had remembered it to be. It's a lot deeper, a lot smarter.
Yeah, I agree. So, yes, if you like it, please revisit. And speaking of revisiting, why not revisit Geek Salad next time you have a long car ride, or you did what I did today, which is paint your kitchen. We have well over 150 episodes, all available at geeksalad.podbean.com, as well as you can get that on Stitcher, on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google Music. You can also check out some of our more recent episodes here at YouTube. Also, don't forget, if there's anything about Beetlejuice that you want to comment on, please leave a comment below. Subscribe, like, hit the bell to be notified whenever we come up with new videos, which is pretty much every week now.
Yeah. Hey, we're trying to do the month-long week of month-long Shriek Week. Shriek Salad.
Yes, Shriek Week.
Shriek.
Salad!
I'll get it right next week. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Stay tuned. Will Mike get it right? Will he not get it right?
Probably not.
So, and you can also follow us on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio and on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. So, until next week, I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
Go forth, be nerdful, and trick or treat.